David and Samantha are coming home to give birth, so you need to leave. My mother-in-law coldly declared. My eldest son and his wife are scheduled to return in 3 days. Me? Not understanding the meaning, I was dumbfounded when she continued, yes, we don't need you to play the role of a mother anymore. You've served your purpose a long time ago. Now, David and others will live here, so please leave by tomorrow. I had known I was not accepted as family since the day I got married. I have been treated as my husband's wife until now, but I never thought I'd be told to leave after so many years. You are a failure who can't bear children. We allowed you to experience child rearing. You should be grateful. We have no obligation to support you anymore. Even Michael is tired of you. Michael too? I swallowed hard. If this is not just a conspiracy between my mother-in-law and David, then I don't need to be considerate to my husband anymore. They are foolish to drive me out, but it's my mother-in-law who lights the fuse. What happens to this house from now on is not my concern. They should face the reality that they could have ignored. I am Chloe Robinson, 45 years old. I live with my husband and mother-in-law near a popular area close to the station in New York. The accessibility to the central part is outstanding. At the time of house hunting, my husband, who had just been promoted to section chief, was particularly concerned about this. The rent is high, but there are many rooms, and it was worth the slight stretch. My husband Michael is 8 years older, divorced, and we met through a friend's introduction. His kindness and tolerance, unique to older men, gave me a sense of security, and we decided to get married after 2 years of dating. Even after I told him that I can't have children because of a past illness, his attitude remained kind. Conversely, even after hearing about his circumstances, my feelings did not change. My husband had a son, David, from his previous marriage. I'm truly sorry to ask you, a first-time bride, to live with a parent and son. I will not cause you any other trouble. I will definitely make you happy. My husband promised. He even suggested moving to a spacious apartment to prepare a room for me so I wouldn't feel stifled in the new home. David will be turning 10 this year, and with his grandma around, I think hardly any hands are needed. So there's no need for you to forcibly become a mother. After divorcing his previous wife, my husband had been living at his parental home, receiving childcare help from his in-laws. Years later, my father-in-law passed away in an accident, and my mother-in-law seemed to have been taking care of David as a mother. David wouldn't meet my eyes from the first time we met. I figured it was just shyness, or maybe it was the difficult age, so I didn't mind it. As long as he accepted me as a housemate, I was fine with that. My mother-in-law was a quiet and elegant person. Even when I visited for a marriage greeting, she was polite, and I thought we could get along living together. I'll prepare the meals as usual. Michael often comes home late, so it's fine if meal times are different. Chloe, I'll ask you to take care of cleaning and laundry. Understood. Thank you very much. After getting married, I changed from being a full-time employee at the pharmacy to a part-time one. I started to work slower in the morning to share household chores, and I usually got home around 8 p.m., but the meal was always prepared when I arrived. I was thankful for this living arrangement. My mother-in-law and David would have their meal before, and I was always alone. Though I felt somewhat sad about being married and eating alone, I accepted it as our style. However, it turned out that my mother-in-law never thought well of me and had no intention of accepting me as a family. David, you have a sports day coming up before summer, right? When is it? We'll all go to cheer for you. A while after our marriage, I spoke to David, whom I still couldn't get close to. Yeah. No, Interrupting David's hesitation, my mother-in-law cut in. We'll go to the sports day, just Michael and me. Chloe, you don't have to worry about it. Misinterpreting my mother-in-law's words, I thought she was being considerate. I can take a day off work, let's all go together. It's fine. You are Michael's wife. The family for David is still just me and Michael. I was considerably shocked. When I spoke to my husband about it that night, Mom was always clinging to David. She probably thinks you're going to take David from her. I'll talk to her. Eventually, I also started participating as a mother from that year's sports day, but aside from school events, there were almost no opportunities for David and me to be alone together. Sometimes David seemed like he wanted to say something, but my mother-in-law always intervened. I learned it later on, but it seemed that my mother-in-law had been bad-mouthing me to David. Chloe was saying she could be happy alone with Daddy if you were gone. She's a terrible person, right? Daddy is surely being deceived by her. It wouldn't be strange if a boy in his sensitive years developed distrust towards me after hearing such things. It's a sickening story, but back then, I never thought that my mother-in-law could do such a thing. After graduating from high school, David immediately moved in with his girlfriend who he had been dating, and left home. After getting a job, a year later, David registered his marriage with his girlfriend without having a ceremony. When David left home, it was surprising how my mother-in-law stopped doing household chores. Instead, it seemed that bullying me became her only pleasure. She didn't cook anymore, just sat at the dining table waiting for me to come home. I went straight to the kitchen to make dinner without even sitting down. You really are inefficient. It's gonna take you till midnight at this rate. I had always relied on my mother-in-law for meal preparation, and I was not good at cooking. As soon as the food was ready, my mother-in-law tasted each dish and complained about how bad it was every time. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. Oh, Chloe, you are surprisingly tasteless. Good thing David never had to eat such things. If it's bad, she should just make it herself. She just wants to complain to me. Not only the meals, she also started to criticize the cleaning and laundry, which she had never mentioned before. Why are these laundries so wrinkled? You have to vacuum every corner. You really can't do anything right. Didn't your parents teach you anything? Saying that, my mother-in-law sighed while looking at me. Being demeaned about my family, I clenched my fists in frustration. I don't know how you got Michael, but I can't see you having that much charm as a woman. And at the end of every sarcastic comment, she always said the same thing. If it weren't for you, David wouldn't have left. I knew that David leaving left a big hole in my mother-in-law's heart. It might be what they call empty nest syndrome. If taking it out on me made her feel better, I thought I would endure it with that mindset. But with a certain incident as the trigger, my mother-in-law's harassment stepped up a notch. That event was the pregnancy announcement from Samantha, David's wife, our first daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law was elated like never before. A baby from David. It's definitely gonna be cute. Oh, it's my first grandchild. Seeing the two so happy made me happy as well, but my mother-in-law's joy was extraordinary. The main reason my mother-in-law was so thrilled was probably because David asked her, "Grandma, can Samantha give birth in the hospital near you and stay at your place after the birth?" Samantha's parents live an hour away by plane, and there's no one here she can rely on, so they asked to rely on our home. Of course, my mother-in-law couldn't refuse David's request. Phone calls from David became frequent, and my mother-in-law's tension skyrocketed. The day after a call, my mother-in-law energetically began preparations. From cleaning David's room, preparing futons, to creating a list of baby items, it seemed she had grandchild fever. Naturally, when I returned from work, I had to join in. Chloe, I've swept David's room, so please wipe the floor and windows. Also, please wax them. We're going to the department store to look at baby beds on the next holiday. Cleaning and waxing at night was tough after getting tired from work. If I skimped, I was ordered to do it over again. Furthermore, my mother-in-law demanded money, and before I knew it, the house was overflowing with baby goods. Chloe, please withdraw some money tomorrow. I found something I want to prepare for the baby. Again? Won't preparing so much be a waste? Let's choose together after Samantha and David come. I had wanted to respond to my mother-in-law's requests, but I was troubled being made to spend money like water. How can you say such a cold thing? It's Michael's grandchild, right? Oh, that's right. Chloe, you're not connected by blood to David, are you? It doesn't matter to you, right? That's not true. Please don't say such things. I just thought Samantha would want to choose for herself. Don't you want to use things you've chosen for your own child? Perhaps because it was a sound argument, my mother-in-law glared at me sharply. I thought I had said too much, but it was too late. My mother-in-law, without saying anything and with a frustrated look, returned to her own room. I did reflect, but I was also shocked to have been talked about like that regarding David. The next morning, my mother-in-law still hadn't gotten up, seemingly still angry. My husband was leaving for a 3-day business trip that day, so he said through my mother-in-law's door, "I'm leaving. Please don't dampen Mom's excitement about her great-grandchild. She hasn't been herself since David moved out. You were worried too, weren't you?" "Yes, but if she spends so much money, we'll be broke by the time David and the others come." My husband immediately scowled. "Are you saying it's because my earnings are bad?" "I'm not saying that." My husband, saying it was fine, left with an unsatisfied expression. It's always like this when it comes to money matters. Since I'm the one managing the money, I can't help but think about the future. Of course, there was a reason for worrying. We've been married for 13 years. I've really had a comfortable life with my husband, Michael. "You can use your part-time job money, Chloe, just for yourself." Since Michael said so, I've been saving all the money except for my allowance. Even though it's in my name in the bank book, I consider it our shared property. But the performance of Michael's company has worsened, and his salary has dropped to 2/3 of what it was when we got married over these 5 years. There's a fear whether the company will last until his retirement, but it didn't seem like he was considering changing jobs. Maybe he can't let go of his manager title in front of my mother-in-law. Now, I'm paying the rent, and Michael is paying for living expenses. I've kept it a secret from my mother-in-law to save my husband's pride. I took off work a bit early that day to apologize to my mother-in-law. When I got home, my mother-in-law was already sitting at the dining table waiting for me. "I'm sorry about yesterday. I said too much." My mother-in-law didn't respond. Instead, she hit me with something out of the blue. "David and Samantha are coming back home to give birth, so you should leave." My mother-in-law said it with a cold voice. "David and his wife are scheduled to return in 3 days." "Huh? Me?" Not understanding, I was dumbfounded. "Yes, we don't need a mother role anymore. You've outlived your use a long time ago. From now on, David and the others will live here, so please leave by tomorrow." I knew I had not been accepted as a family member since we got married. I had been treated as my husband's wife until now, but I should have doubted it when David came home with us for the birth. "We even let an incompetent, childless person like you have child-rearing experience. You should be thankful. We don't have an obligation to support you anymore. It seems like Michael is tired of you too." "Eh? Michael too?" "Yes, isn't he probably getting along well with his new girlfriend by now?" I swallowed hard. "There's no way." Certainly, my relationship with my husband has been thinning lately. Was it a pitfall to think that it was limited to my husband? If you think about it, there was no business trip until a year ago. Understood. I will dine out today. I grabbed my bag and staggeringly left the house, walking earnestly. I wanted to calm my heart that was greatly upset about my husband. While walking, I tried calling my husband's cell. Even being told that by my mother-in-law, I still wanted to consult my husband. After calling multiple times without an answer, I called his company and was told, he is on a break until the day after tomorrow. The credibility of what my mother-in-law said is increasing. Is he really traveling with a woman? Bad imaginations surged one after another, beating down my heart and tears came out. While walking staggeringly, a bar behind the station caught my eye. It was a shop that we often went to when we moved. I thought it still existed while I went through the curtain. "Welcome." The master's expression clouded for a moment as our eyes met, and then he gave a slight nod. Does he remember me? "Master, long time no see. It's been about 8 years. I used to come here often with my husband. Long time no see. I remember." Sure enough, I inadvertently smiled. At the same time, I felt my heart loosen. May I have a beer and a combination of grilled chicken? Yes. The master has always been a man of few words, and that hasn't changed. I put my cell phone on the table and the standby picture shined. It was one taken with David when he turned adult. He looks good in the slim suit we chose together. I really wanted to get along more as a family. As I was gazing, a part-time girl brought beer and grilled chicken. As I gulped down the chilled beer, I felt as if the fatigue of my heart was also washed away. I wonder if it's possible to move tomorrow. When I searched, I found a moving company that can do it the next day. I also checked for junk buyers and saved 2 in my favorites. On a whim, I changed my phone's wallpaper. It feels like my head is completely clear. Both the beer and grilled chicken taste exceptionally good. Now, I'll go home and think it through carefully. When I started walking out of the restaurant, I was stopped with a "excuse me" from behind. Turning around, a girl, an employee from the restaurant, was running towards me. "Are you Mrs. Robinson by any chance? I happened to see your screen wallpaper just now." "Yes, I am." It felt like an act of God. "Your husband, he's having an affair with one of our employees." Maybe her youth made her sense of justice strong. That must be why the restaurant owner had that expression. She said my husband still frequents the restaurant, deeply involved with a long-standing part-time female employee. Even during work, when customers are few, they are always talking. After the bar closes, they leave together. They're always so clingy, it's really disgusting. At her candid thoughts, I can't help but give a bitter smile. We exchanged contact details. "If something happens, I'll contact you," she said. Those words felt supportive in my lonely battle. What my mother-in-law had said was true. Once my mind was clear, rather than sadness, a bubbling anger was rising within me. Might as well go all out and end it. I made a reservation with the moving company I had saved in my favorites. If it's not just a conspiracy between my mother-in-law and David, there's no need for me to be considerate to my husband anymore. They're foolish to drive me out, but the one who lit the fuse was my mother-in-law. What becomes of this house from now on is not my concern. When I got home, I spent until midnight packing my belongings. There's no more hesitation. At exactly 2 p.m., the scheduled moving company arrived. "As you told me, I'm leaving today. The moving company is coming, so I'm taking everything I bought. Yes, it would be nice if you could erase even the traces of you being here." As she wished, I took out all the furniture and appliances from this house. I had been paying for everything other than rent and living expenses with my part-time job money. Watching the belongings being carried out one by one, my mother-in-law began to panic. "Wait a minute, Chloe, what's this? We can't live if you do this. To leave no trace, I'm taking out everything I bought. You can start a completely new life from tomorrow." While holding back my laughter, I ignored my resisting mother-in-law and carried out everything. She was complaining to the moving staff too, but that wouldn't change anything. The only things left in the house were a ton of baby goods and a chest of drawers from before my marriage. "Well then, goodbye. I believe I've left no traces behind, so please be happy with Michael and David from now on." Leaving my mother-in-law sitting in astonishment, I placed the keys and left the room. I had my luggage held temporarily, and decided to stay at a single colleague's house for a while. Feeling accomplished, I slept soundly that night. It was a week later when my husband contacted me. Were he and his lover making some plans? While my husband was dawdling, I got a message from a girl at the bar. "I got a good picture, I'm sending it." There was a picture of my husband, chatting amiably with a not-so-young woman in the bar. The girl, perhaps feeling a sense of justice, must have followed them after closing. Photos of the two entering a hotel were also attached. Even in such times, it seemed the affair was ongoing, and the last bastion of my husband cleanly dissipated. I asked her to find out the woman's name and address for me. When all the evidence of the affair was prepared the next day, my husband called. "Where are you now?" "David and Samantha are here." "Aren't you coming back soon?" "No, I'm not coming back. Your mother told me to leave. I'm done." Aren't David and Samantha gonna live together now? I knew it. David and his wife are moving in because they have no money. I heard that after graduating from a vocational school, they've been changing jobs, and now they're working part-time. No, I want you to come back. When I went to the pharmacy, I heard you're taking a break for a while. Do you have a place to stay? Yeah, I'm fine, so don't worry about me. Your mom and David must have hated me. They'll be glad to live freely without me. My sarcasm leaves my husband at a loss for words. He's been turning a blind eye to the fact that his mother and David have not accepted me as family. Well, it's fine. I have something to talk about too, so I'll be back there once. Yes, I have to put the finishing touches for the sake of my future life. Please, I beg you, my husband replied in a slightly relieved voice. And later on, I returned to the house after a long time. There were some new furniture and home appliances in the house. When David and Samantha saw me, they greeted me with a nod, remaining seated on the sofa. As I sit down on a chair, my mother-in-law, sitting in front of me, glares at me with a scary face. The atmosphere is bad, I should do what I need to do and leave quickly. Thinking so, David opened his mouth. What did you come here for? Took all the house stuff. Are you a devil? You've been living comfortably being supported by Dad. I sighed. I took everything because I bought it. I wanted all traces of me to disappear, just as you wished. But that's weird, right? You, just working part-time at a pharmacy, there's no way you have that much money. It seems that my husband still hasn't talked to my mother-in-law. When I glanced at my husband, he began to speak as if giving in. For a little while now, Chloe and I have been combining their earnings to get by. Then the stuff you took out is ours too, right? Caught for words, I decided to speak on behalf of my husband. Michael's company is doing badly, and his salary has plummeted. So for the past 5 years, I've been making up the difference. But that's not enough anymore, and now I'm paying the rent. My mother-in-law looked at him with surprise. I'm not just a part-timer, I'm a part-time pharmacist, and the hourly wage is quite good. Now I earn more than Michael. My husband awkwardly looked away at my words. My mother-in-law's eyes hurriedly darted between both of us. From now on, David will have to pay the rent. You're living here, right? You've been taken care of enough, now it's your turn to repay your grandmother. Suddenly asked, David, with a surprised face, inquired. How much is the rent? $2,400. Do your best. It seems I'm done playing the mother role, so I have no obligation to look after you. Pull yourself together. You're going to be a father soon. David shook his head slightly, muttering, That's impossible. Samantha, hearing this, raised her voice. Wait, $2,400? You said if we live here, we don't have to pay rent or living expenses. I even quit my job. David's salary is only $1,200, what are we gonna do? I almost burst into laughter. Don't worry, Samantha. You can move to a cheaper place, right? Michael still has a decent salary. Hearing this, Samantha's face relaxed a bit. Oh, but I'm going to claim compensation from Michael and his mistress, so life might still be tough. Finally, Samantha broke down in tears. My husband was the one in panic. What are you talking about? Ah, your mother told me. About the new woman. I'll quit being your wife. That's definitely a lie from Mom. You're the only one for me. My husband probably thinks there's no proof. Indeed, it's only been 10 days since I left the house. Wouldn't Evelyn be hurt if she heard that? Well, I'll contact her about this later. Hearing the name Evelyn from my mouth, my husband shivered. Realizing I knew everything, he sighed, holding his head. Well then, I'll be going now. From now on, let's communicate through our lawyers. Saying that, I handed him the business card of my divorce attorney. Both my husband and David said nothing more, remaining silent. As I stand up with my bag in hand, my mother-in-law stands up simultaneously. Slamming both hands on the table, she shouts, What's this? This mess is all your fault, in a voice so loud it's hard to believe she's an old woman. I am instinctively infuriated too. It was you who said get out. You said Michael had another woman. You interfered with my relationship with David. It's all on you. Feeling something hot welling up inside my chest. I regret not pushing further into my relationship with David, not holding back because of my mother-in-law. It's not about David. Play your part. Michael is having a hard time, support him as his wife. Take your responsibility as a family. What is this woman talking about? If she hadn't called David back to this house or hinted at Michael's infidelity, I would still happily be supporting my husband and this household. I have always believed and supported Michael. I don't need any role anymore, and I won't return. Then I look straight into my mother-in-law's eyes and say slowly, from the beginning, I was never accepted into the family. So, I can't take responsibility as a family member. My mother-in-law's lips tighten into a straight line, and she is shivering. I slip past the silent mother-in-law and quickly leave the room. Later on, my husband easily agrees to the divorce. It seems he can't argue against the photographic evidence of his infidelity. I sued my husband and Evelyn for causing me emotional distress and demanded a typical amount in compensation. It seems they immediately started the procedures to move out of the apartment. In the end, David and Samantha returned to the apartment, never to live with my mother-in-law again. My husband is considering remarrying, but Evelyn is furious at the addition of alimony and the request to live with my mother-in-law. He is considering putting my mother-in-law in a facility. It feels a bit pitiful to be abandoned by the son and granddaughter she has loved so much now. Is it the end of my mother-in-law role too? If my mother-in-law had said nothing and it had just been a homecoming birth, we might still be living together. After the divorce from David, an apology letter arrives. It includes things like he really wanted to be spoiled more as a child, couldn't talk because grandma disliked it, and was happy when I came to school events. I should have reached out more. We might have been able to establish a different relationship. Although our relationship has ended, I am silently praying for David's future happiness. I returned to my job as a pharmacist and soon rented an apartment near my workplace. Feeling uneasy about the furniture and appliances I took with me, I ask a waste product buyer to purchase and dispose of them all. Life without the bullying is quiet and comfortable. For a while, I want to live prioritizing my own happiness, rather than living for someone else.